Hey guys, Richie here. Thank you so much for clicking on today's episode. Now, originally this episode was going to premiere 2 weeks from today, but I've decided to push it up because we learned some recent news with Jeff Hardy and his legal situation. His license has been taken away for 10 years. They said he had to serve 38 days in jail, but he had time credited, so he doesn't need to serve any time in jail. Plain and simple, my reaction to this: don't drive drunk. Don't put other lives at risks. There are so many other alternatives to get a ride if you are impaired. We have Lyft, we have Uber, we have all those kinds of services. And me and good old Don't Follow David, we both have a conversation about this in the episode. And this is prior to us knowing about Jeff's current legal standings. And it doesn't matter how powerful you are, you do not have the right to put anybody else's life at risk. And I hope Jeff Hardy can come back from this better, whether he wrestles again or not. You know, the main thing is he's not putting anybody else's life at risk, and that he can be there for his family and his family be there for him, because he does have children and they need a father. And it would be tragic if a person such as his stature, that was so influential not only on his kids but to many kids around the world, were put in a situation where that could be jeopardized. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and we're going to cut to me in 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome back to Wrestling Retold and Relived with Richie Mars. I, of course, am your host, Richie Mars. And I have a repeat guest. I should make him a co-host by now, by how much he's been on here. It is DFD, Don't Follow David, unless you could find him. Don't Follow David.
I like it. It's not bad.
Yeah, how you doing, buddy?
We are back. We're back. What's this, episode 4?
This is
5?
the 4th one you've been on,
okay.
yeah.
Cool. I like it. It's been fun here. It's been fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna just get like one of those Sharpies, put a name on your mic, so
I'll
next time you know where it is.
I'll expect a nice little king throne chair next time I arrive here.
I got you a pretty good chair.
Put my stamp on here.
Yeah.
So we're good to go.
To our hearts.
Yes.
It is the extreme highs and extreme lows of Jeff Hardy.
Mr. Nero.
Brother Nero. We knew he'd come.
Yep. And here we are. We are.
So I'll start with my history with Jeff Hardy.
Sure.
When I was first becoming a wrestling fan in 2003, 2004, I would always hear from my friends who were either wrestling fans or not wrestling fans about Jeff Hardy, which is weird because usually when you talk to kids who are kind of in the know with wrestling but only know like the main stars, like Rock, Austin, Undertaker,
like me,
Triple
like back
H,
then, yeah.
But a lot of people were just talking about Jeff Hardy, and I remember my family friends, they were big Hardy Boy fans, and they would play the game Just Bring It for PS2.
Yeah.
And they would always play like Matt and Jeff Hardy. And this is before I had internet or anything like that, so I couldn't like look up Jeff Hardy. All I had for reference were maybe a DVD or two.
Not a lot, yeah, because he wasn't at that point. He kind of left the company.
He left the company at that point, and my first introduction to Jeff Hardy was TNA, like live.
Yeah.
Because he was on a couple of those Spike TV shows.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because even as me as a fan as well, like I don't think I was even a fan when he was technically in WWE by the time I turned on to the product. So, like I know him from past matches, and if YouTube was a thing, I would have known him from there. But more so just like old clips that were rerun through, WWE media. But yeah, my first experience with Jeff was the same thing. It was TNA. Go figure.
And we always wanted. It's like, what if Matt and Jeff Hardy were to reunite? Where would they reunite? Would they go to TNA? Would they go to WWE? It would be both eventually, but
Go figure, yeah.
But Jeff Hardy would eventually make his way to WWE in 2006.
He would come back, yeah, versus Edge. I think it was his comeback. Ironically,
Yeah.
versus Edge.
That was the debut of actually the Rated R spinner belt.
I do remember that. Yeah. That was after being done with John Cena, finally moving on. I think Edge thrown into the Sound or something like that?
Yeah, he was thrown into Long Island Sound.
Yeah, good times. So yeah, and I think it was the start of the show after just Edge kind of coming out and proclaiming his win and this and that, how he was gonna take the night off, and then boom, you hear Jeff Hardy's music hits.
That music, and a lot of the fans, they like nowadays remember, like they grew up with them doing the crotch chops or the Hogan like pose. For us, it was either the Cena "You Can't See Me" or the Jeff Hardy.
Oh, you're
like,
swinging
dance.
your hips, yeah. Doing those thrusts midair.
That's what you do. I saw an Instagram video, TikTok, where it's like there's no paper towel, so it's like they're doing the Jeff Hardy dance to dry their hands.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's creative. Okay, I'll give you that. Creative.
Jeff is one of these rare guys who has that charisma about him that you can't replicate.
For better, for worse. I mean, yeah, he's one of a kind.
It's really odd to describe because he was always that artsy guy.
He's always a creative little. He's always a creative guy who, as you saw
like
later in the years,
athletic, artsy emo kid. He was a little bit Hot Topic, a little bit Spencer's.
Yes.
And
some hip hop, some like you said, just art, creativity.
Just put that in a blender.
And that's what he was.
Yeah.
And we saw it sometimes in years, later down the line in his face paint.
Yeah.
And even his music, his own theme music.
Yeah.
That we listened to and grew up with in TNA.
Yeah.
So like that all comes from Enigma. He's an enigma, and it's funny. Yeah. It's wow. Go figure that one, right? I remember when he debuted on Raw or re-debuted on Raw, just how ecstatic I was. I was jumping up and down, and they were hyping it up, that he was gonna debut at some point on Raw.
Yeah, they were doing like these video vignettes and packages
right, exactly.
of like a heartbeat in the background.
Is that what it was?
And it was Jeff Hardy's like random feats of swantons and Whisper in the Winds and just crazy dives, leg drops.
Yeah.
And it got us hyped. Like when we first saw it, it's like, oh my god, Jeff Hardy's coming back. And for us, it was like a legend was returning.
It really was.
You would see and hear these stories of Jeff Hardy and his crazy feats. And did you know, like coming back, he was only like 29, like 29 or 30.
Really?
Yeah, like he was young when he left the first time.
That's crazy. Okay, I had no idea. Because it's weird because it always felt like he came back a little older.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure he did come back older in life experience. I'm sure, and you need that to mature, which is I'm sure why they brought it back. But okay, wow, that's kind of crazy. He was young guy back then.
Came back, he quickly won the Intercontinental Championship, had an awesome feud with Johnny Nitro. I remember watching the reunition of the Hardy Boys on ECW live.
Yep, I remember that.
I was just like, I'm like, oh, this is so good.
It's so nostalgic.
And then they transitioned to Jeff Hardy being in that Intercontinental Championship division.
He definitely brought prestige to the title as well.
Absolutely.
He held it multiple times for multiple months at a time. So that really helped the stock. And kind of what we touched on in some episodes in the past, using that Intercontinental title as a stepping stone.
The title make the guy, or the guy makes the title. And he was the guy who made the title.
1,000%.
And he had an awesome feud with Umaga.
I was going to say, yeah.
Like they had
multiple
wonderful chemistry. Big man, little man.
Yeah.
And Jeff Hardy's not even little. He's like 6'1", like 220.
But you don't think that with the way he moves in the ring and the flips that he does. It's crazy.
His flips I relate to Rob Van Dam, where Rob Van Dam, his flips look painful. Like for the other guy. Like Rob Van Dam looks like a heavy human being. He's like 240.
Jeff kind of just like says, you know what, I'm going to go here and screw it. Whatever happens. I'm
just going to drop.
Yeah.
It's
like gravity works.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, well, it's fine.
Like I'll listen, the guy's going to break my fall, so I'll be okay. So, that's kind of how he does business. So I respect it though. I respect it.
And he quickly rose the ranks as probably the most popular star, almost the most popular star at that time.
I mean, I think next to John Cena, I think you kind of have to. Like, he was on fire from the very get-go. Like, because I think the people were starving for Jeff Hardy. You know, just for the way he left WWE the first time. Not that they kind of ignored him, but, you know, obviously they're not going to talk about him, but at the same time, like...
It's almost like they really wanted Jeff to be this star for them. And Jeff was in a place where he just wanted to focus on other things.
Yeah.
Whether it's his art, whether it's his music.
He wasn't
and
ready.
Just kind of... Because that's a lot of pressure to put on a
Young
guy.
kid. Young kid, too.
Yeah. Imagine you're one of the most popular stars in WWE, and you're like 25, 26.
Something like that, yeah.
That's a lot of pressure to put on somebody.
And live up to.
Yeah. But at this time, he was earmarked as the next star. I feel like he was the next one. It's like, okay, this is going to be our guy.
They definitely were building it, I feel like, to be that, you know? But like you said, by him having all these great matches with great superstars, and he was really getting the TV time. You know, he was killing it on the mic, killing it in the ring. He was getting the reactions left and right. Like, this guy was just...
And the thing with him on the mic, he didn't really need to say much, you know? And it's just like, not saying his promo skills were bad or anything. He was...
Didn't need it.
His body of work was legitimately his body. That's how he would communicate.
That's true. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, yeah. It was really like a canvas for for his work, so...
If Pablo Picasso just put on some armband
and started swinging his hips left and right, yeah.
And just started like doing
face
swan
paintings.
Cons. Yeah, he was a big inspiration, I feel, for like a lot of these like backyard wrestlers.
Oh, for sure.
Because you just got go into your Hot Topic, you pick out the gear, bing bada boom, you're Jeff Hardy.
Some wrestlers now, you know, if you look at the attire, some of the attires they worn is from Hardy. You know, even from like his see-through shirts, you know, that he used to come out with back in like the early 2000s with his brother. Colored hair, the face paint,
do you remember,
nails.
Do you remember his nickname, the Rainbow-Haired Warrior?
Oh yeah, who gave him that?
JR.
Okay, JR. I thought it was cool. Okay, yeah, that's a funny nickname. Yeah, but you know it worked though. It worked.
I remember I was there in the Garden when he faced Randy Orton for the WWE Championship, and that was kind of his first test back to WWE. And it featured one of the smoothest counters I've ever seen in person. The twist of fate into the RKO.
Yeah.
Ooh, man.
Legendary.
God, Randy Orton's just so good.
I remember seeing that on TV, and I was just like, I can't even be mad. Like,
you know,
like I was like in shock. Like, damn, he really just pulled that out of his bag. Okay.
Because us as fans, we always like seeing that next talent break through the glass ceiling, so to speak. And I feel like with Randy Orton, Jeff Hardy passed with flying colors.
You could put, you know, basically anybody with Jeff Hardy, and you were going to get a pretty exceptional match and a pretty damn good storyline.
Jeff's one of those rare guys where you could legitimately beat him 6 out of the 7 days of the week, and people will still go crazy for him.
Yeah.
When we see other people in that position, their pops kind of dwindle.
Right, exactly.
You know, Jeff Hardy is in that rare space where he's permanently popular.
Engraved with like that reaction.
He is just a part of so many people's fandom and childhood.
I was gonna say almost their life.
He's in that rare category with Rock, Cena, Austin, Taker, Punk.
I have an opinion as to why, and it kind of ties to what we're talking about today. So, I think literally because he's so open with his downfalls. I think is the reason. He shows how human he is at the end of the day, how much he can relate to every single fan that's out there, every single person that cheers him on, this and that. So it's, you know, he understands the daily struggle, and you know he has his own personal problems and everything. Unfortunately, that has, you know, affected his career, but he hasn't let it affect his career to a point where he can't do what he's doing.
Do you think that using his personal struggles as a part of storylines is going a bit too far?
It depends. I mean, listen, if he's good with it and he's fine with, you know, doing whatever he wants to do, sure, then I think by all means. If you ask me, if I would be put in that position, like, I remember he had a whole feud with CM Punk, and that was one of the best feuds. The whole straight edge versus Jeff Hardy. A guy who's really not straight edge, who dealt with his own addiction problems.
Living in the moment.
Exactly. Versus a guy who is straight by the book. Follows the rules of the law, this and that, and doesn't abuse drugs in CM Punk. You're really two polar opposite superstars together. So it really, it was impossible to fail almost. But I think because of how relatable he is as a character is what really excelled him and gave him multiple chances coming back from, each problem.
People sometimes confuse the character with the person.
Yeah.
But with Jeff Hardy, he was just the person.
Yeah.
He wasn't putting on an act.
It's what he was.
That's what we saw is what we assumed the person would be. He was just very authentic, I think is the best.
Yes, I agree. That's a good word.
To it. Yeah.
It's a good way to describe him.
He just seemed very authentic when performing or when speaking, and he was going to win the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 24.
Yep.
This comes from Matt Hardy's podcast, The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. They called him that he popped for a wellness violation.
This is first, second?
I think it was second because it was 60 days.
Yeah, I think it was second.
And Matt tells a funny story. Vince calls him, "What have you done?"
That's a good impression. Oh, God. That's scary.
And they talked it out, and, he screwed up. He recognizes his mistakes.
Man up to it and just,
and
get down, get up.
2008 was the year of Jeff Hardy. Yeah. 2008 into 2009 was
that time was like, he was untouchable.
The story of Jeff Hardy trying to capture the WWE Championship.
What a journey.
It's very reminiscent of, and it's completely different stories told over time, but when you have the Daniel Bryan Yes movement or Kofi Mania or as recently as Sami Zayn.
Right.
You have this guy who is immensely popular. And I don't even want to call Jeff Hardy an underdog. But it's kind of like the story of his life. He comes this close, and every time he would challenge for the WWE Championship, he would get closer and closer.
Just no cigar.
And it was just like, oh man, he almost got it. But as a fan, you weren't so
there.
Angry. You were just like, he's going to get this eventually. Like, you had this faith that he was going to
at some
become
point it was
champion.
Click. Yeah.
And with Daniel Bryan, it was more frustrating because we thought he would never get his moment. With Jeff Hardy, he's going to get his moment, but we just don't know when. And I think those are the best moments told in stories. This is our guy. We believe in him. It's just a matter of if that's the story that they wanted.
So the problem with Jeff has never been that he's never had it, right? It's always been his personal life has gotten in the way with his professional business. Because from a business perspective, from Vince's perspective, how do you put a title on a guy that you can't even trust will, show up for the next show, or even be able to show up, a show 3 months from now, or be able to come clean on a pay-per-view, or you just don't know. One day come into a house show even, all, wired up.
And it's funny you say that because Freddie Prinze Jr. was a writer for WWE. And the mission he was given by Michael Hayes in secret was make Jeff Hardy the WWE Champion. And the story that they would kind of like converge on is, I'm not sure if you remember the Jeff Hardy story, his rise. It was, he lives in this shade of gray. Like, he doesn't live in this world of black and white where it's inherently good or evil. He's just this being.
He's just, okay.
And he's just him. And I think that's
right.
Another reason why people connected with Jeff Hardy. When wrestling is so good guy, bad guy, Jeff Hardy was just living his life.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a firm alliance with anybody kind of during this time. He was on SmackDown. He was facing Triple H for the WWE Championship here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see how almost getting that championship was kind of affecting him and his mental state. because before it's like he was this close of getting it, and then Triple H beat him with a roll-up or something.
Yeah.
And then he would attack The Undertaker, and then he would start incorporating the face paint and having these crazy promos where he had the glow-in-the-dark face paint.
Yeah, good
and
times.
like there was like dark lighting, but like half his face would be lit up by the face paint. And it was so visually different from anything that was going on in that product. And this was during the time where they incorporated those HD sets on Raw and SmackDown, so the shows looked the same. There was no like giant fist anymore.
Ugh. Bad mistake.
And visually the show started looking the same. But you remember what SmackDown was because Jeff Hardy was always doing something different.
Not to say Raw was, bad or stagnant or whatever, but I mean,
it had Jericho and Shawn Michaels, so it was a different type of storytelling.
Yeah, right. So like SmackDown always, in my opinion, especially back then, like the B show as they call it, but always had the better wrestling. Like
it was a more wrestling oriented show.
Like underrated show for sure, but you had real wrestling. You had Raw was more focused on storyline build up and long term investment in that way, but SmackDown, you had guys who didn't have that chance or the TV time, and that was a brand to kind of make superstars and build them and see what they can do. And Jeff was a product of that. So, and I think it excelled. It really helped him, especially when it came to finally picking up that WWE title at Armageddon.
Yeah, and to get to Armageddon, Freddie Prinze Jr. said on his podcast, Wrestling with Freddie, that it wasn't a for sure thing that Jeff was going to win that day. And the argument he made, because Triple H was in that room, and Triple H said, are we really going to trust this guy? Because like you said, his history.
Right, how?
And this is not comparing the two. It's like when you have, people are hesitant to hire ex-cons.
Right.
And unfortunately, even if it was like for a petty crime or something like that, it's hard to get past that or look past it. Or same thing with like any drug addict.
It's the reliability, and the liability.
Because when it's one thing if they did something in secret, but if you have like their rap sheet, it's different when you're reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And Triple H said, "Are we really gonna trust this guy?" And Freddie Prinze Jr. whips out his the merch sales sheet from WWE.
Oh boy!
And those armbands are selling a ton. And Freddie Prinze Jr. said he's like they're even outselling you, Triple H.
Oh God!
And that was a risky move.
Oh yeah.
But this just goes to show the popularity Jeff Hardy had with kids and teens and
everyone,
adults. Everybody had a reason to
cheer him on. Yeah.
And that really was what probably sold Vince on having Jeff as champion, and also having Edge's input on dropping the WWE Championship to Jeff Hardy was a good idea.
Yeah.
And just seeing the crowd after the fact and Jeff Hardy's celebration, just the emotion of just like going crazy. It was just
that
like
finally moment.
Yeah, and I remember going to school the next day and reading on my phone, looking online and seeing the WWE.com like photo of Jeff Hardy holding the Spinner Championship. And I have to say, he's one of the few people who look good with that championship.
1,000%. 1,000. Because it was his, like you kind of said, it was that thing that made him attractive to every single type of demographic. He wasn't young or old. Yeah. It was open about his mistakes, very relatable, very, he sold everything, got along with everything with our kids, and, sales were great, so really, everything was kind of going well.
He would later drop the championship back about a month.
Yeah.
Because of all these accidents he was happening with the pyro, with the side swipe. He would feud with his brother Matt. Yep. And then he would have, in my opinion, an all-time feud with CM Punk that was very pivotal of CM Punk transitioning to that straight-edge society character.
Yeah.
And with Jeff Hardy being so open about his past and his struggles,
right,
that made a perfect combination of elements to have this rivalry.
Even on paper, like, it sounds it sounds like it's just gonna work, right? Like, cause what you're saying, cause like CM Punk represents all these good things in real life that principles and stuff that you would take upon and be like, okay, I'm gonna use that as a good person. But in WWE, he's just shamming this point down your throat and just shoving this point that I'm better than you because I'm doing this.
Being very preachy about it.
Exactly. Like, if it's not my way, you're wrong, right?
And this is before they had those shoot comments, I guess. Like when they blur real life with the storyline.
Right.
I remember the SmackDown when CM Punk's on the mic and Jeff Hardy's on commentary, and he just goes to Jeff, guess what, Jeff? You have 2 strikes, referring to his wellness violations. He's like, guess how many I have? 0.
Yep. It's crazy how they kind of tiptoed that line a little bit,
Yeah.
With
and they weren't doing it that often at this time.
No, it was a little before its time, as you were.
That won't be the only time CM Punk breaks the 4th wall.
No, but like, you know what? That's kind of why I think this rivalry made it so great, because you had those moments of like no wrestler would say this usually, or would bring this up, but like because the principles are here, the principles in this storyline are very true, very real, right? CM Punk's point of being straight edge, and then you have a guy like Hardy saying, just because you make mistakes doesn't mean it makes you a bad person, right? That's the whole,
And I just thought about this today. We saw Jeff Hardy as world champion at a SmackDown taping.
Yeah.
And he actually defended it against CM Punk, and that was their build-up for the TLC match.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, Jeff Hardy would do the cage match. Loser leaves WWE.
Yeah,
CM Punk wins, and Jeff Hardy gives his farewell. Oh, there was that one guy who kept shouting that Kali's a murderer. Do you remember that?
I remember he was shouting something absurd. It's funny that that's what he was shouting.
He kept shouting. Oh, that was also the taping where John Morrison slipped on the rope with his flying chuck kick.
Yep.
And then they edited it out, and we saw it, and we're just like, oh, they're not going to show this.
Nope, and they didn't. John, we saw you.
John Morrison,
just so you know.
We saw you mess that up, and we're not mad. We're just disappointed.
Just be real. Just be real.
Also, I love Boone the Bounty Hunter. That was a great movie.
I can't say.
Unironically, I do like that movie.
Well, I mean, it's not a bad movie, so you can't go wrong with that one. Yeah. Classic.
On September 11th, 2009, Hardy was arrested on charges of drug trafficking in controlled prescription pills and possession of anabolic steroids, after a search of his house yielded 262 Vicodin prescription pills, 180 Soma prescription pills, 555 milliliters of anabolic steroids, a residual amount of powdered cocaine, and drug paraphernalia. So they did a drug raid because Jeff Hardy was getting pills FedExed to him by some fans.
Wow, okay.
Because Jeff Hardy has a very demanding style.
I mean, listen.
And unfortunately, he took the path on how to rehabilitate it. Again, I don't know Jeff Hardy personally. But again, for his style, he has to try to live with that pain every day, and he still does.
It hurts. It hurts. You hear someone like Mick Foley who's in constant pain every day of his life, and they didn't have similar styles, but they put their body on the line brutally, week in and week out.
Especially doing a move like the Swanton Bomb every night, and you're landing on your lower back tailbone.
And like that's just not even counting any getting chair shots, TLC matches, steel cages. I mean, come on. Like,
I'm gonna continue here.
Yeah, please.
On September 8th, 2011, so 2 years after the fact, Hardy was sentenced to 10 days in jail, 300 months of probation, and a fine of $100,000.
Wow.
Hardy served his jail sentence from October 3rd to 13th in 2010. Now, a normal man who gets busted with that doesn't go to jail for 10 days.
Nope. No chance.
He was very lucky.
Yeah, to say the least.
Now, during this time, like, we're just coming off this hot feud with CM Punk. you as a fan, how did you feel about this happening so shortly after Jeff Hardy left?
Maybe it's because maybe I was naive, but I was kind of surprised. I was kind of surprised. I thought maybe things were going so well for him, and since he came back, it seemed to be he had some bumps, sure, but it seemed things were going pretty decent, and things were looking up, and he was working hard. Things were rolling, right? So, and I don't know if anyone really knew the depths. I mean, this has been very open in the past as well, so he's always been dealing with things, but I don't think because of that. Like I thought he was good to go. I thought because of his return and everything like that, he finally got himself clean, or at least situated enough where he can go about doing his job.
Right.
So I was surprised that, again, it could have been very naive, but that it did come back the way it did, and
it's always surreal when you see someone who, for lack of a better term, is a hero to many people.
Sure.
That you see on TV.
A role model, yeah.
And then seeing this, even though we say Jeff Hardy was so open with his flaws on television, and our naive little brains at the time, we're like, all right, obviously they're doing this just to promote a storyline. But when you see the actual person still struggling with those kinds of demons, it kind of puts things in perspectives. And then you look back at, and WWE, they would take a little shot at Jeff Hardy for this at one of their, like CM Punk took a little shot at it.
Yeah, I remember
at
that.
Pay-per-view. And it just seems like, oh, is that really necessary? And because I'm like, oh, they even left the door open for him. They let him do that speech saying, this is not goodbye forever, this is just goodbye for now.
Right. So
it just felt like, oof, that was a little bit of a gut punch.
Oh, when especially when he went to TNA, the same time, where
I was shocked by, because here's a guy here's a guy with a pending investigation, and despite his popularity, like very serious charges too.
Of course.
Jeff Hardy would later say that he was very thankful for TNA for keeping him employed during that time. They knew the baggage that was coming. Like, on the one hand, you're like, oh, this is good. They got a big name.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you have this elephant in the room that you're not sure how it's going to turn out.
It's like knowing the domino's going to fall at some point. You just don't know when it's going to fall where.
But I will say during this year, we got the first and I believe only Jeff Hardy heel turn. The Antichrist of professional wrestling.
I remember that.
Now, how do you feel about it? Because I was always a fan of the Antichrist character, just because it was a different Jeff Hardy we were seeing, and he was getting that opportunity to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
But under, like, a little over a year ago, he was one of the most over WWE stars.
Yeah.
And then, not even a year later, you're just going to switch him and make him the biggest bad guy of your company.
Again, TNA does a lot of different things that
they experimented a lot.
That's a great word.
I call
to use.
TNA the college of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Where they experimented with a lot of things.
Yep. Tried and error.
Some things stuck, other things didn't.
Trial and error.
I will give them credit, because WWE would never turn Jeff Hardy heel just because of the popularity.
Absolutely not.
And they allowed Jeff Hardy to have a different creativity with this Antichrist character. And how did you feel about the Immortal Championship belt that he had? Do you remember it?
The like his actual title, like the one that his custom made one.
Yeah, the purple strap with his face on it.
Yeah. I was a fan of when he turned heel. I was surprised, just because it was different. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I liked it because he was that. I liked it because it was different. Just because, again, it didn't. Because a part of me also, like you said, didn't really was like, really, like, you're gonna turn this guy, heel. I got it a little bit. I understood it, Now his title was like, I mean, even to this day, it's still kind of cheesy. Like it's the purple strap and everything. Like his face, it looks more like a little prop more than anything, more than actual like world championship title. Like I understood you wanted to make it into something that like represents.
It was an odd team up because
Yeah.
he joined the Immortal faction, which was headed by Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff. And it seems like, yeah, they made the title distinctly for Jeff Hardy in storyline, but it seemed like a weird thing that Hogan would gift to Jeff Hardy. And there wasn't really a prior relationship that, I get it was a big secret that Jeff Hardy was with Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff, but
I think it was too much.
It was an odd partnership.
It was too much changing going on at once.
Like I feel like if Jeff Hardy was by himself and not with a group,
it would make more sense.
It would be more like easier to digest, I think, as a fan.
Yeah.
Personally.
Like I said, I think between the swerve and just changing of his physical attire as well, switching up the face paints to actually match.
Like he switched his haircut. He switched.
He would shorter.
He would wear those like Good Charlotte like suits, I guess.
So all these different changes that us as fans never really saw from him.
He'd come to the ring smoking a cigarette.
Wow, I do remember that. Wow, vaguely in the beginning,
Like he would cut these promos where,
but it just wasn't explained correctly from the TNA's perspective, from their creative storyline perspective.
What TNA and Impact did with Jeff Hardy and the Hardy Boys in general, they allowed them to experiment. Yeah. And for every antichrist of professional wrestling, you have the Broken Universe, which became tremendously successful.
Right.
But this is where the story kind of turns a little bit. Jeff Hardy's extracurriculars and his in-ring stuff are going to come to a head.
Intertwine,
at Impact's Victory Road.
Oh,
2011.
God. Oh, God.
This is from Eric Bischoff's book, Grateful. I'm going to read a little excerpt of it.
Go ahead.
Victory Road was set to culminate in the match between Jeff Hardy and now the former TNA champion and Sting, who recently dethroned Hardy on an episode of Impact. Sting also happened to be one of Jeff's childhood heroes. When Hardy's entrance music played for the bout, however, he stumbled through the curtain and staggered down the entrance ramp, looking absolutely in no condition to perform. At the time, it has been Jeff's MO to get to Universal Studios, where they were taping, the site of Impact tapings, check in, and then go into hiding until he was needed to come out either for an interview segment or a match. I don't know where he hid on that night of Victory Road, but it's probably safe to assume he was busy doing whatever drugs he brought with him. When it was time for Jeff to go out, it seemingly took forever to find him. I made my way over to the gorilla position, the staging area behind the entrance curtain, before witnessing that no one was stopping what was about to take place. While waiting for someone to make a decision, I stood back and watched Jeff make his way through the curtain. Wow. Sting had no idea Jeff was screwed up. And out of respect for Steve Borden, I didn't want to see Steve have a match with someone who was completely wasted. As there were no ideas coming from anybody else about how to intervene, I soon found myself walking out to people not knowing what I was going to do.
Wow.
So, put this in perspective. Here's a guy who is all somaed up, as Jeff would later say it was somas he was on.
Yeah.
Because at the time, somas weren't a recreational drug.
Right.
You could get them by plentiful, And here's a guy who is in your main event, who's arguably your biggest star of the company.
Yep.
And he is legitimately just out of it.
And
you had people who just kind of let him do his thing,
That's the difference between a young up and starting company like TNA and something like WWE. Something like that would not fly. So I don't even know if I'm in Eric Bischoff's shoes. I mean, like you see the videos all over YouTube. I mean, there's no denying it. There's no way around it. Like he's even talking to Sting in the ring of what's going on.
Eric Bischoff said he wasn't sure if he was gonna knock him out, drag him out, and he started trying to intertwine the storyline of saying since Jeff Hardy was underprepared, this is now a no disqualification match. He goes in for like the bro hug with Jeff Hardy, and he said to Jeff Hardy, "It's gonna be a Stinger Splash, Scorpion death drop, and you're out of here.
Yep.
And then he went to Sting, and he said, take him out. Just called it. You know, and this is one of the rare points where wrestling gets real.
Yeah.
And
it was that real.
And Jeff Hardy said he only remembers a conversation in the day where they were going to do a thing where Sting was going to do the Scorpion death drop, but Jeff's head was going to be in a chair.
Oh wow!
And like he was a little nervous about that, but excited to take it. But so the match happens and it lasts about 90 seconds, and you see Sting forcing his body on Jeff to make sure the
shoulders are down and everything.
Yeah, and the crowd's chanting BS, BS, and then Sting's like, I agree. And Sting later said he wasn't mad at Jeff, he was just disappointed, which is even worse.
Yeah.
This was the peak of Jeff Hardy's addiction.
His problems, his downfalls,
impacting his work.
No pun intended. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, you know, that's kind of what you get with Jeff. You know, you get the highs and the lows, the good and the bad.
It's the ultimate double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being like a friend or a family member with him, but as a fan, you're just really concerned about him.
Yeah, because I know, especially I was a big Hardy fan, even before he kind of debuted or re-debuted on Raw. Like I know I was becoming more and more with the hype that when he did debut of a fan, and ever since then I really was a fan.
Mm.
So like, I mean like, it's hard to you know really get a certain thoughts or a certain title on how he is, because you're almost thinking of like, hey, like when's the next one gonna happen? Right. You know, like you're waiting for that next problem to arise. You're waiting for
the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, like it's because you know, like even after the third, fourth time, like you know that with all this good, it's only temporary because he's gonna screw it up somehow, and like whether it be a few months or if he's lucky a few years. Mm-hmm. But it always, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it always comes.
Yeah. So now, at this point, after the Victory Road incident, Jeff Hardy gets clean, and he has a very, very good TNA run.
Yeah.
Like, arguably, maybe even better than his stuff in WWE to a certain extent.
Of course.
And he does the Broken Universe stuff with his brother.
Matt, yeah.
Tremendously successful, and I think put back on the map the cinematic match.
Oh, yes.
Right before the pandemic hit, and so they were kind of ahead of their time.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that a little bit.
And it was very creative. It was very engaging. A lot of people saw it as over the top, which it was, but it was engaging at the same time, and it was a different way to tell these stories.
That's also was like something that describes them, specifically Jeff.
Exactly. You know? They're both very creative minds, and they add their stamp to everything they're on. And I think that's what makes them still popular to this day, is that we still appreciate them for their creativity and their body of work of revolutionizing match types like the TLC, like the ladder match, like the Broken Universe stuff, like everything that we like about wrestling now is thanks to the Hardy Boys and Jeff Hardy in general. But
I agree.
The next time for Jeff Hardy is his WWE return at WrestleMania 33.
Oh man.
And you want to talk about crowd reactions?
Oh, that's gotta be. So that video still gives me chills to this day. Just the.
Honestly, it's top 5 for me.
Oh my god, it's crazy.
Because you have the music and all of them are juking.
It's nostalgia. You had New Day coming out, and oh my god,
it's like the hit of.
It was packed. Man, it was packed. That whole stadium was packed. Oh my goodness.
Like imagine taking 5 shots of 5-hour energy back to back to back, and you're just like, all right, I am ready to go. That's what it felt like. I'm getting goosebumps like right now from the reaction.
Oh my goodness, yeah, no,
and it was the perfect return for the Hardy Boys after their public struggles, and arguably changing the wrestling business with the Broken Universe.
Yeah,
and it was a great give them their flowers moment.
It was perfect, you know. Yeah. It was like I was still very skeptical that they were gonna show up. Mm-hmm. I was more I don't even know if skeptical is the right word. Like I almost didn't believe it because just of how close it was.
They even posted the day of that. They took a photo at the airport saying, "Oh, it's been a great WrestleMania weekend," or something to that effect. Time to go back to North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then New Day says, "You know what? There's gonna be another team that's gonna be in this ladder match. I wonder who it can be." And you think it's New Day, and then
Obviously.
the music hits, and then the Hardy Boys come out, and Michael Cole says, "It's about to be broken."
Oh, that legendary line. You just knew everything would kind of just fit like a shoe. So it was just capturing the titles.
Looking back on his last WWE run, Jeff Hardy was fairly successful.
Yeah.
He won the tag titles that night with his brother.
Mm-hmm.
He won the U.S. title, and he won an Intercontinental title.
So he,
like a title that arguably he revolutionized during the, I guess, ruthless aggression era that he was a part of.
He really made that title what it was back then.
But unfortunately, he does get some DUIs. On July 13, 2019, Hardy was arrested in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for public intoxication. On October 3rd the same year, Hardy was arrested and charged with driving while impaired in Moore County, North Carolina. And, it's really upsetting to see.
Disappointing, yeah.
Because you have so many alternatives to
not do that.
Not drive drunk. You have Uber, you have Lyft. And unfortunately, sometimes, again, I'm not Jeff Hardy. I don't know. But it's like sometimes people feel invincible when they're at a certain point,
That's why, they say not to do those things and get behind the wheel because you feel that way. That impairs your judgments of doing the correct decision.
And Jeff Hardy leaves WWE. It's because of quote-unquote erratic behavior. Yeah. He, as Jeff tells it, he was done with his portion of the match. And he just hopped the barricade, and then he just left. So WWE thought he was under an influence of something, made him take a drug test. 5 days later, they release him.
Yep.
Turns out, after all that happens, he gets a phone call, and they're asking him if he wants a spot in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
Jeff says no. Send me the results of my drug test, because he knew that he
was gonna pop hot. Yeah,
he wasn't gonna pop hot at all.
For the this is the
So he
last one of the
Jeff knew he wasn't taking anything, like any substance,
right?
So as a make good, I theorize that they dangled the Hall of Fame carrot for him to still be a part of the company, so Jeff doesn't meet his brother in AEW, so they have a Hardy Boys reunion there and make them a bunch of money.
And I know what Jeff also wanted, I believe, Matt as well in the Hall of Fame, from what I understand.
Correct, yeah, because you can't have one without the other.
Especially, I understand. So Jeff, you can say, had the more successful singles career, and even career in general, but even early on when Jeff was first released, Matt was the guy who was more looked at.
It's very much like the Marty Jannetty effect, which I freaking hate because it puts a stamp on a guy who doesn't necessarily deserve it.
Right.
I'll give an example of a tag team right now, the Street Profits.
Okay.
Montez Ford has amazing charisma.
Absolutely.
He's athletic. We're taping this we're recording this the day after Elimination Chamber, and he had a fantastic showing in that chamber. But Angelo Dawkins, he got in shape. He slimmed down. He's trying new things.
Okay.
He has the potential to not just be the second guy. And I feel like if you label that too early before the team dissipates, and I feel like we're also trained to, at least when it comes to tag teams, that
pick a side.
Well, not only pick a side, these guys are going to break up eventually, so we got to hop on the bandwagon to see which one is going to be more successful.
Yeah.
Or like you said, pick a side.
Yeah.
And I don't like how they did that with, the tag teams like Jeff and Matt or Edge and Christian.
Yeah, that's another good one. I mean, whether it be human nature or because of the fact that we're almost as fans kind of waiting the fact that, all right, when are they gonna get rid of this team, or whatever it is, like.
It's such an odd thing because it's like, oh man, these guys are a great tag team. I can't wait till they break up and they become their own.
And because even some teams, like when they break up, like it's probably the end of their runs.
Take a team like New Day, for example, and they stuck together.
Surprisingly, I don't know how.
And during that time, everyone was saying, "Oh man, when's Big E gonna turn? When is he gonna turn?"
Yeah.
It's like, when are these guys gonna turn? And I don't think you need the turn. There have been tag teams where it's just like, all right, we're just gonna go our own separate ways. We don't need but it's been instilled in us by watching wrestling for so long that the trope is, if you want to break up a tag team, they always have to have a hatred feud for each other. One has to do that Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty thing. And I'm sorry, but labeling someone as a Marty Jannetty just kind of like, not only it's like disrespectful to Marty Jannetty, but it's putting a cap on a guy who doesn't even deserve it. Like, you give him a fair chance before like you do anything with that.
That's their problem sometimes. WWE specifically is writing them off a little too soon. Just because they're a little green or whatever the case may be.
Or one shows signs of having a more charismatic personality, and the other one shows like more of a good hand kind of deal.
Yeah. So.
And it's just like an unfair position to put someone in.
No, I totally agree.
By the fan base.
So, but I don't agree with it. But unfortunately, that's just how it is at the moment. But.
And now, unfortunately, we're at a point where Jeff Hardy he's signed to AEW, but he's not present right now because he's still getting his stuff together, which
he's going through another low right now.
And I have no doubt that he's gonna bounce back from this.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before.
It doesn't matter how many times you fall off the bike, but you just have to keep getting on, and hopefully, he doesn't put other people's lives at risk.
Yeah,
because it's. Yeah, I don't know how plainly I could say it, but.
No, you say it. You gotta say it.
Yeah, you don't drink and drive.
That's listen.
Deal,
at some point, you just get too old to do dumb things, and you just kind of hope that he's at that age.
Yeah, and you don't. There's no excuse for doing it.
Yeah,
and I just hope personally that Jeff Hardy is going to be at a point where he's good, he's healthy for his family, and if that means he has to stay away from a wrestling ring, that's what I would like to see. You know, it's like, I'm not begging for Jeff Hardy to get into a wrestling ring. I'm begging for Jeff Hardy to live a life that I want him to live a life that he could prosper. He could rest his body.
A healthy life.
Yeah.
No more abuse.
If he has one more run in him, that's great. But I'm not clamoring to see anything for Jeff Hardy except being healthy.
But I think that Jeff Hardy is probably clamoring for that more than anything else. I think he's his own biggest critic and motivator, and
as we all are.
Right. I think it's something special about him. A guy who can, as many downfalls as he has, he's had a lot. It's not to knock him, but he's had a lot, and he's been upfront about them. But he's had a hell of a lot of them. But like we said, every single time you get down, you get back up, and he's done it more times. You almost have to count in two hands, and that's for better or for worse. But like, that says something about the type of person that he is. So like,
I'm gonna put you on the spot now. What kind of Jeff Hardy segments, matches do you come to mind when you think of Jeff Hardy?
Let's see.
Like, you pick storylines, you could pick like a specific match or a specific moment.
Well, we already touched on it earlier. When he re-debuted on Raw, coming up and stepping up to Edge.
Yeah.
Coming back, I think is great. Was amazing.
Yeah, and Edge's comeback line, it's like, didn't you die like 3 years ago?
Oh,
like, he was so mad.
A legendary line. Honestly, you know what I like too, and I don't know, I think this gets a lot of mixed reviews, but I loved, and I think it's more so maybe the nostalgic in me that's loving it, when when Matt Hardy did cost Jeff the title, right? And that whole feud that led up to WrestleMania. Listen, that the build-ups though to that WrestleMania was pretty great, all around. And that feud in particular made it feel so real. And because listen, there as a WWE wrestler, your mic skills and the way you perform inside the ring and outside the ring in this instant, has to be impeccable. And they really carried that storyline and made it seem like they legitimately hate each other as brothers. And holy hell,
I'm just gonna say, really weird that they had Matt claim that he started the house fire that killed Jeff's dog.
Yeah.
Not really for that, but it did that promo. And that promo hype package for Matt versus Jeff Hardy with the song, I think it's called Crash.
Yep.
I still have it on my iPhone today. It's such a good song.
Absolutely, great song. But that was really a perfect song to kind of shape up what was happening in that storyline.
Because it's like the intro of the song goes, and you have Jeff Hardy, you're sick, you're twisted, you're demented, and so am I. And then he just tackles, and that's when the beat drops, and I'm like, oh my God, Jeff.
And the match in WrestleMania was good. A lot of people say it wasn't great or it was too gimmicky, I think.
I always thought it was awkward when family members or brothers fight. The only time it really worked, in my opinion, was Brett versus Owen. Just because back then people weren't more on the inside, so you believe these people really hate each other. Right. But it's like now more than ever when it's like brother versus brother. I don't know. It's just like I don't feel like people wanted to see it,
I get it. I mean, that's just why how good Matt and Jeff are, because they really took it to that level where it just made it seem like, you know what?
Yeah, Matt Hardy had the long coat tights phase.
Yeah, weird phase, but he made it work, I guess.
Yeah, his third comeback, and he was feuding with Randy Orton.
Okay.
And this is when Randy was being like a sick, twisted, demented heel. This is not bald Randy Orton, because bald Randy Orton's a menace.
Yes.
Who should be stopped. Thank God he grew his hair. But
thank God.
Jeff had these gauges.
Mm-hmm, yes, I remember the gauges.
And they had a Hell in a Cell match, which I really, really love, and I think is very underrated. It featured spots where Jeff Hardy used the table was flat.
Yeah. And
he kind of rode it like a surfboard and hit Randy Orton in the gut.
Oh, really?
On the outside.
Oh, shit.
And there was this one spot where Jeff Hardy, he has those gauge earrings. So what Randy did...
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, he put his finger in there.
No.
And then he took a screwdriver and kept twisting it. And I was like,
I hate you. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the finish was Jeff he climbed the cell like it was like a thing of monkey bars.
Yeah.
And then he tried to splash Orton through the table, but Orton moved.
Oh, God.
And just went through the table. And Randy's trying to pin as the referee's calling for the stretcher. He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Count him. Do your job. Count him. And the ref's like, I don't want to count. And I'm sitting there watching it live. I'm like, it's your job to count. And then he counts the 3.
All right, fine, I'll do it.
But yeah, I thought Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton had fantastic chemistry with each other.
One specific feud I remember a lot is Jeff and Umaga, right?
Yeah.
All the time. I don't know if it's because they was all the time or tag team matches or whatever, but I feel like they went at it a lot, and for the title. So I remember them putting on great matches on Raw, left and right. So
those were two guys who were knocking at the door, saying, "Hey, we're ready to take the top spot."
Umaga really should have been a world champion as well.
Yeah, he had everything. Unfortunately,
passed away, but he definitely had. I don't want to say he had the it factor, but he definitely had world championship. He was world championship material. That was. You can't take that away from him. But same thing for Jeff. He's everywhere he's gone. He's been a world champion.
Yeah.
So now let's see what happens with AEW. It's. If you can get that world title somehow, Jeff, you come back up in the up and up, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's always it's one of those things where I feel like Jeff Hardy has proved his legacy. Yeah. I don't think he needs to prove anything to anybody. He just
maybe to himself though.
Yeah,
you never know.
It's like that's up for him to decide, and I just hope for his sake he's clean. He has a healthy life with his family. I think he has 2 daughters.
Yeah,
has to be there. He has to be there for them. Mm-hmm. He has to be there for his friends and family, and all we could do is support, and hopefully he gets on the up and up because he doesn't need to put anybody else's life in danger, and we hope him physically, mentally, emotionally has everything in full health.
Yeah, no, I think honestly he's a guy who's very, with how open he is. I think it's as strong as he is inside as well. So I think as much as he is on the low right now, is as great as he's gonna be up when he comes up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, almost like exploding up, like coming back on the scene. Just maybe just taking the TNT title one day. You never know.
Yeah,
let's see.
It's like
really kind of see what they're gonna do with him.
Having a final Jeff Hardy run would be fantastic. But
and maybe even coming back in WWE, have one more match here and there or something. I know Jeff would love to get that at some point.
Yeah. To wrap this all up.
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy. Where is he on your list of favorite wrestlers? Is he top 10, top 20, top 30? Is he top 5? Like, where does he rank when you... Like, this is your own personal bias.
Yeah. I think I have to put him in my top 5.
Really?
Like, if I'm thinking about... So, like, I think of what I thought of him prior as well. So when I think of my top 5 or top 10, I think of what I thought about it in the past. Whether my opinions were wrong or not. I think of everything as a whole. Yeah. Some guys on top of my head, in no particular order. I have Eddie Guerrero, obviously, Christian, one of my favorite wrestlers, and Jeff Hardy was also one of my favorites for a long period of time. I've never really turned on him. I've always been supporting him, for better for worse. Kind of to a lot of the things that we were saying earlier in this podcast, that of what he represents, right, and how open he is with his flaws. I think that's very relatable a lot into real life, and a lot of younger viewers as well. So I think that's also something good to glamour on. You have Randy Orton, obviously, John Cena, another couple guys, always going to be right there. But I mean, I think I have to put, like, there's 3 guys. Maybe even Kurt Angle too. Kurt Angle is one of my all-time favorites as well. But yeah, no, I think I'd have to put Jeff probably in my top 5 for sure. Just because of everything, and kind of what I still believe what he can achieve as well. He doesn't need to, like we said, but can he? I still think he can. I do.
Yeah.
I do.
That's great that you have that faith in Jeff Hardy, and with a lot of people losing that faith, not saying it's...
I'm very loyal. I'm loyal to my guys, okay? I've been loyal since to Eddie since before he passed away, and he'll always be my all-time favorite. Christian has been my all-time.
I can't wait till we do an Eddie Guerrero podcast.
Oh yeah, I'm here for it. I'll be here alive and well, and I'll be front and center. Absolutely, I'll be here for that.
I'm not sure if I could put Jeff Hardy in my top 5, but a feud he had is in my top 5, and it's that Jeff Hardy CM Punk feud that we talked about.
Of course, yeah. That's
just because of
the realness too.
Yeah, the realness, the transitional period for CM Punk and for Jeff Hardy. If there was anything called a bittersweet ending, it would be that feud.
I agree. You can definitely take a lot from that, like you said, better for worse. But yeah, just because of all the different characteristics, kind of that feud kind of presented, different type of angles and everything like that. So it really had a lot of cool things going on in that, especially head shaving, masks, and things that you had this dreaded society. It looked like a cult of sorts. It was very, but at the same time they stood for something good. So it's like it's very, the way they went about it was very sophisticated. So it was good. You gotta applaud that. So
all right, that's gonna wrap up this episode of Wrestling Retold and Relived with Richie Mars. DFD. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining. It's always good talking shop with you.
Oh, yeah, and I'll be here for, I'm sure, a few more episodes here and there, so I'll expect my throne.
Yeah, your contract hasn't expired yet, so, you're looking it over. We're getting your demands.
Getting paid overtime here. It's good.
Yeah, I know you won that foot bath there. I'll pull some strings together.
All right, that's all I hope for.
All right. Again, you could Follow the show on Retold Richie Mars on the Twitter, One True Richie on TikTok, and you could listen to this lovely show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and we will see you next time. Same podcast time, same podcast channel. TTFN, ta-ta for now. We'll see you next time.
I like that.